Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Chiefs Digest Live Q&A here on Tuesday night. Kind of coming to you out of the blue. I know the schedule did not get posted. So for all of those of you who are hardy enough to pop in here upon the immediate notice, you are greatly appreciated as always. Welcome to the discussion. As always, later on, I'll be joined by our good friend Nick Jacobs. It's been a busy couple of days with the beginning of free agency, comings and goings, and rumors, and all sorts of stuff going on. Busy few days at One Arrowhead Drive, and it's going to get even busier. So the new league year kicking off on Wednesday at 3:00. A lot of other transactions. Everything's going to be taking place. There you go. I haven't had a chance to hit the like button yet, and Brian's already there for me. So greatly appreciate it. I'm very interested to hear and see what you all think of some of the moves the Chiefs have already made. I find that I think our Chiefs Digest audience and our 41 is the mic audience is very discerning amongst the groups of Chiefs fans. So I am very curious about what all of you think about the moves that the Chiefs have made. We'll see where everything goes. Anything you want to talk about Chiefs, NFL, you name it, put it on the table. Hey, if you want to ask anything else, as always, Nick and I, for the most part, try to answer everything. So bring it to us, and hopefully we'll all have a great time talking about the Chiefs and what's going on right now. Appreciate you, Jedi. That's all you're going to get an honest takes from me and Nick. That's absolutely always the case. We're always going to try and tell you what we see, what we think, what we hear. May not always like it, but it will always be truth, always be honest. So yeah, that's what you got. And Brian's already bringing the heat. Nick will absolutely greatly appreciate that. So without further ado, I'll just dive straight into the questions, and maybe we'll get to your question relatively on time tonight. I won't have to go to lightning round if I'm organized and concise enough. Start with Dez, member for 9 months. Always appreciate you, Dez, and you're a great super chatter too. Always appreciate that. Which free agent wide receivers are the Chiefs looking at? And I'll be honest, Dez, I have not heard a lot about which receivers that the Chiefs are interested in. I'll be interested to see how much they do get into the market. I'm still kind of expecting that they will, although when you think about it, I think 4 spots might already be taken up on in the receiver group as it is, barring any injuries or changes and any extracurricular activities that pop into that. And when I say that, I'll say I do not expect there to be anything coming of the Xavier Worthy situation over the weekend. There is absolutely zero reason why that should pop up on the NFL's radar from a standpoint of a suspension or anything of that nature. So I don't think so. I think the only thing you're dealing with is Rashee Rice's situation. And once again, until that's resolved, I don't think the NFL is going to take any action. And when they do, unless there is anything surprising that comes out, I mean, people I've talked to are, I think, much more confident that it's going to be a shorter suspension than was originally suspected. I mean, I know a lot are talking about the 6 to 8 range. I hear a lot of optimism that it might be in the 2 to 4 range. So we'll see. I mean, I would always counter it probably being safe to count in the middle, 4 to 6. 6 is a fairly safe number from the NFL for some situations like this. But getting back to Dez's question, so Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, 3 guaranteed spots. I think Nico Remigio will make this team for his special teams ability, for his return ability. None of the 3 players that above him on the roster are any guys that you want returning kicks, anything of that nature. Maybe if the Chiefs draft someone that's a return specialist, maybe that changes the equation. But right now, I'd say that's one of your spots right there is, that's Nico Remigio. I think there's 4 of your receivers right there. And the Chiefs have some interesting prospects. I mean, from young guys that they kind of, I think, want to get a further look at. Tyquan Thornton, really interested in. I mean, Tyquan Thornton and Jason Brownlee might be complete shots in the dark and might disappear by June before we get to the OTAs. I mean, you just never know how those things unfold. But those are a couple of guys that I think would be really interesting to see how they fit into this Chiefs, rotation and this lineup and this roster, especially Taekwon, because he's got that tremendous speed, and you can never, as we know, have enough speed. But as far as the free agent market, it's just not, like Nick and I were talking about beforehand, it's not a real attractive market to me from a wide receiver standpoint. I mean, obviously there's been some of the big ones that have changed teams. Your Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf's already in the process, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins isn't going anywhere, wouldn't be in the Chiefs market. And once you start, crossing off guys who aren't going to be in the Chiefs price range, then DeAndre Hopkins obviously went to Baltimore today. And it gets a little bit more interesting, because you're looking at 4 and 5 receivers, and I know you'd love to maybe get a number 2 or a number 3 caliber receiver as a backup, but I just don't know how, realistic that is. And, I kind of look, remember Chiefs brought in Justin Watson. That's probably about the range that you're looking at, because that's about the pay range that the Chiefs are going to be able to be in. I'd still be interested in see if the Chiefs are interested in the reunion with Demarcus Robinson. I think obviously he's got a great relationship with Mahomes. They know each other. I think he would be interesting. But at this point, I'll be honest, Des, I have just not heard very many names associated with the Chiefs, and maybe that will change here in the next, 24, 36 hours. We're getting kind of at the tail end of round 1 of free agency. We're starting to get into round 2, where you're going to start to see a little bit of maybe some bargains popping in. That's where I expected the Chiefs to probably be the busiest and most active, is in that part of the market. And the second and third waves have been honestly a little bit more active than I probably expected. Even though I think that they got some, what I would call second and third wave bargains, with some guys like Elijah Mitchell. We retained a few of their own guys. We haven't gotten to the point, though, where you're starting to see the Derek Notties or the Charles Omenihues start to sign and find some places. So, there's still some possibilities there, but I could see the Chiefs, trying to scoop up a veteran receiver at a rock bottom price. Who that is, it could be just about anybody. Like I said, I have not, haven't heard a lot of names associated with the Chiefs from that position. So we will see what happens there. Clicking around here. Jackson, are you surprised that the Chiefs signed a corner? All for it. Was a bit surprised, but thought it would be something the Chiefs would address in the draft. Think still will. I think they still will too. I think that there's certainly a possibility Chiefs will draft a corner. I was not surprised that they signed a corner, because that was something that Brett Veach told me, told a group of us at the Super Bowl, was that they wanted to get a free agent corner. So I've figured that they would absolutely be in the market. And Christian Fulton was one of the guys that Nick and I rattled off on Sunday as being somebody that we thought the Chiefs might be interested in. Perfect fit for a Steve Spagnuolo scheme. He's a physical corner, does the right things, has a lot of versatility. So I think there's a lot to like there. I think he's still an ascending player. I think he's starting to figure out some things. I thought he had a much better year this year in year 4. And, sometimes it just takes a little bit, guys, a little bit of time. And I know the Chiefs were interested in him coming out of the draft. So once again, it's, you can check one of those boxes that this is a player that the Chiefs have been keeping tabs on for a long, long time. I don't think it's that bad of a deal either. And I think that this is a move that's going to improve them and strengthen them at both, honestly, corner and safety, because between him coming in and strengthening that group of the cornerbacks, now you don't have to rely on, and I don't think you're going to have to rely on Shamari Connor as much as a nickel corner. He can go back and be a safety. You're losing, obviously, Justin Reed, who's gone to New Orleans to team up with Tyrann Mathieu, but Shamari Connor, Brian Cook, Jaden Hicks, that's your safety trio. I think, and Shamari Connor's that's going to be competitive. I do think that Brian Cook is going to be healthier and stronger in year 2, coming back off that ankle injury. So I'm probably a little bit more bullish on buying the Brian Cook stock than I know some people are. But Shamari Connor, if he can just nail down and specialize at safety, I'm interested to see that and to see how he can perform in that role. I know Jaden Hicks, I fully expect Jaden Hicks to have a breakout season. I think he's going to step in, become a starter at that strong safety spot and take over. I could be wrong, but that's just that sense I get from him. I was just really impressed in year one. He's the right kind of player, right kind of attitude, right IQ, everything. So, but no, I don't think the Chiefs are done at corner at all, Jackson. So I think you're gonna see them absolutely coming back. Dez with the super chat, thank you very much. What about Juju? Juju, we'll see. I think the Chiefs would be interested in bringing Juju back. Probably be a late kind of in part of free agency. I could see Juju. I wouldn't blame him for shopping around and see what kind of other opportunities there are out there. At the same time, I mean, Juju, he didn't look like Juju last year. You know, not the same guy that the Chiefs had a couple of years ago. So in 2023. So let's see what happens. I'll be interested to see what Juju does if there's a job out there for him. But I think he fits into that category of some guys that the Chiefs are willing to say, hey, go find a deal, and if you find one, come back. We'll see if it's something that works. If not, no hard feelings. Good luck. Bless your heart. But I think he would be. I could be wrong, Des. I mean, maybe I'll be surprised, and they'll sign him fairly quickly, or maybe he'll want to come back pretty quickly. I think that he might be a guy that you wait a little bit to just see what the market is out there. I don't think Juju would be demanding a ton of money. I could also see Juju, veteran prerogative. Maybe he does want to just wait a little while longer. Maybe he wants to wait until June or July to make a decision about what he's going to do. I don't think the Juju really needs OTAs or anything of that nature. So if he wanted to skip that part of the offseason, I wouldn't blame him. Now, Willie Gay and Juan Thornhill. Juan's interesting because I think Juan might still have a pretty good market. And if he does, then I think it would be tough for the Chiefs to get Juan Thornhill back. If he were to come back to the Chiefs, it would have to be on kind of a vet minimum, fairly low, maybe some incentives kind of deal. And I could see Juan maybe just not being crazy about coming back to Kansas City with the way that safety room's set up, because I think he'd be the number 3 guy. I don't know that there would be a chance to really become a starter at that spot. Maybe, but I think the Chiefs, really want, their young guys to step up and be starters this year. So if they bring anybody in, love Juan. I mean, I think obviously he fits in that locker room. Great character, great teammate, all of those things. I don't think the Chiefs would have any qualms whatsoever about bringing him back. But I just think that Juan probably still wants to play a little bit more than the Chiefs have a role for him. I think he wants a little bit different role. So Willie, probably the same way. I mean, let's see what kind of the market is out there for him. And because I think the Chiefs would be the same way, that if Willie could come back on an affordable contract, they'd be interested. That what he played for New Orleans last year, probably still a little bit more than they would want to pay. So let's see what happens. I do get the sense that the Chiefs are still looking for a veteran linebacker. So possibility of Willie coming back, I can't rule it out. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibilities. I don't think it's likely, but let's see what happens. I know I sound like I'm never ruling anything out, and you might ask me something that I can rule out, but you can always get surprised. You never know when things will come around. And there's a lot of us, obviously, never thought that Kareem Hunt would be back on this team. So if Kareem can come back to Kansas City, anything's possible. That's why I'm not going to ever rule anything out. I'll just tell you what the likelihood is. I don't think it's really likely that Willie Gay is going to come back, but it's always a possibility. Chris, are you surprised by how active KC has been in free agency? I have, Chris. I mean, I certainly thought the Chiefs, were going to jump on the left tackle market pretty early. And once the Ronnie Stanley possibility and that door closed, it certainly seemed to open to Jalen Moore pretty quickly. I mean, started hearing the Jalen Moore talk Sunday afternoon, and feel like Sunday night, Monday morning, it was certainly like a foregone conclusion. Okay, the Chiefs are going after Jalen Moore, and they wanted to address that. They wanted to make a move. And you know what? Jalen Moore might not be the starting left tackle. I mean, it's possible that they're still going to add to that room. I think they would like to add another veteran. They will probably address left tackle in the draft. So there still might be another couple of faces to add to that. And with Jalen Moore about that contract, it's a walk away from a contract after year one, so if it doesn't work out, I think he's going to get every chance to compete for that job, but he might not be the only one competing for that job. Elijah Mitchell, I think, was just a really good, move of opportunity, a need that the Chiefs had, a specific player type that they needed at that position, and an affordable deal. So, that, even though I did not think that was going to be a top priority, anything that the Chiefs were going to jump on immediately, the fact that they moved pretty quickly to get a kind of guy that fit what they wanted and needed as a backup, it's a good move. Christian Fulton, that's just, to me, I think an A hit. I mean, that's I think it's a great move. Really helps that group. I think he's going to be a great fit in Kansas City. Curious to see what Nick thinks about that when he comes in, and because obviously he put Christian Fulton on my radar months ago during the season when talking about possible free agent candidates that might fit with the Chiefs, and I think Christian Fulton's going to be great. So, and the fact that, like I mentioned to the earlier question, didn't surprise me that the Chiefs made a move at cornerback, because that was a priority for Brett Veach to get a veteran corner, and and for them to address that early, that was a priority. So, absolutely addressing that quickly, not a huge surprise. But at the same time, I mean, the Chiefs have splashed a little money, and I think a lot of people thought that the Chiefs just weren't going to have that much money to spend. They've done a good job of carving it out. Now we will probably, especially tomorrow with the 3 p.m. deadline to be compliant with the salary cap, especially with the Trey Smith tag, we'll probably get the first official confirmation that Chiefs are moving some of the money around in the roster bonus for Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if they'll do anything with Chris Jones yet. There's a few things to work out if they want to with Travis Kelce's contract too. There's not. I mean, the only thing they can really do with Travis's money is just is restructure the contract to add some years onto it if they want to for cap purposes. Not ruling out the possibility. Once again, I mean, like I said, everything's on the table, especially from a salary cap perspective of things that you could do. We'll should hear a few things about that, but the Chiefs, they're not broke. They've got a little bit of money to play with. But I've at least been. I mean, I did say I think I said that they were surprised by how active that they've been, but I think it's just maybe with how aggressive that they've been at a couple of those spots and just jumping on the guys that they wanted and making sure that they got them and being competitive with it. So, and I'll fold in Hollywood and Nick Bolton signings in there too, because that was also a case of two guys that they really, really wanted and making sure that they got the deals done. And Nick Bolton's case, maybe it was a little more than they wanted to pay, but they also didn't want to take the risk that Monday at 11 o'clock rolled by and he got a deal from somebody else that was too good to turn down. Jackson, what has been, in your opinion, the most surprising move of free agent so far in the NFL? Oh, good question. And I think to me it would probably be, I'm trying to remember which one was it. I mean, Dan Moore getting as much money as he did. I mean, that one kind of blew my mind a little bit. I mean, and certainly the evidence was suggesting that he was going to get paid a little bit of money. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, but just how much that ended up being, yeah, I mean, what's that, 21 per? That's pretty good sum for a tackle that, I mean, the Steelers didn't want to keep. And, that's one of the things that Nick and I talked about, going into free agency, especially about left tackles, is that, I mean, teams, if they've got a good left tackle, they want to keep them. And that's a legitimate concern about Jalen Moore, that he's a young guy. And if he's as good as the Chiefs think that he is, wouldn't the 49ers keep him? But then again, I mean, the 49ers were pretty much just walking on anybody. And I assume that the 49ers are in the Arch Manning sweepstakes. I can't figure out what else that they're doing because they're letting everybody walk. And I'm assuming that they're probably going to try and shop Brock Purdy too. So, I mean, that's why I say, at least with Jalen Moore, I mean, even though we're saying, hey, left tackles, if you're good, your team's going to keep you, 49ers aren't keeping anybody. So maybe that's a little bit of a sign. But Dan Moore getting the money he got. I mean, if the Chiefs had paid 21 per for Dan Moore, I'd probably be questioning the sanity on that one. But we'll see what happens. Luttrell, and even though I had the late start, Luttrell with the hooray, it is Q&A day. Much appreciated. Sharon, with D-Hop gone to the Ravens, what are the thoughts on the wide receiver? And I'll kind of reiterate what I said to Dez, and and I know Nick is going to be here in a minute, and maybe we can get his thoughts and get a little bit of diversity of opinion on this one. I'm assuming that the Chiefs are going to be in the market for another corner or another receiver, rather. Could be bringing, hey, maybe it's Juju, maybe it's somebody else. I haven't really heard a lot of names associated with the Chiefs at this point. I think they're going to draft a receiver too, and they should. And again, I feel like that there's four receiver spots on this team that, if not 90%, three of them at least 100%, if healthy. And then there's Nico Remigio as your return specialist. Maybe you get a draft pick now. Hey, it's getting a little slim as far as spots go, because as we've seen, if you've got 6 or 7 receivers, you might not have any receivers. I'll be interested to just see what they do, and let's now we get to ask Nick, because Nick is here.
Well. If it isn't
Nicholas, how are you?
People of Q&A land, I am here. How about yourself?
I am well as also, and I've been so busy that I hadn't even got to mention the fact that earlier today we talked to Graham Mertz.
We did. We talked to the former Blue Valley North quarterback. Also spent a little time at Bishop Miege. And then in college, you played at Wisconsin, played in the Bro style offense, a lot of play action under center, has that available. Then he played at Florida this past year and got some chances to go against SEC defenses and play in more of a shotgun style. So, great interview. Graham's fantastic. Gave a lot of insight about the rehab from his ACL injury. All of you should go check it out, and you'll be rooting for him no matter where he goes draft weekend.
Yeah, it's a great interview. It was a lot of fun. He's a good young guy. So if you're not already a Graham Mertz fan, if you head over there, you will become, I think, a Graham Mertz fan. So feel free to check it out on the Chiefs Digest YouTube channel. And did we do it on the 41 is the Mic podcast?
It's the 41 is the Mic podcast.
There you go. You got that as well. So if you aren't, and you should be a subscriber to the 41 is the Mic podcast, you'd already have it on your feed.
You do me a favor, go down to 727 real quick for the Facebook one.
We got a Facebook comment. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Maddie McMatterson.
Hey, Maddie.
To have a niece watching. Hi.
Awesome. Welcome, Maddie. Much appreciated. We love to have you here.
I know her. I've known her since birth. It's the craziest thing.
That is awesome. Maddie, good to see you. Thank you for taking the time to check in on Uncle Nick.
729. You got to put that one on there. Severio. So for people that don't know, this is Severio Occupene, family friend. Severio, we have an inside joke. Each time he lets me know he's watching, even if he doesn't have a question, he puts the eyeball emoji. So now you guys are all in on the inside joke when you see that every time. So
I love it. I love it. Man, and here I was, Nick. I was telling everybody that because I got a late start and everything, that I was going to go. Maybe we were going to get ahead of time. I'm already 20 minutes behind. I don't know how I pulled that off.
Well, it's because I'm not here to force you to.
There's that.
Go to the next one.
I was just on my own.
You don't have a producer in your IFB like you would on Sunday Sound Off this past Sunday.
I was just pontificating on my own.
You don't have me in your IFB on a Sunday Sound Off show.
Wrap it up. Rap.
You
didn't have to tell me that this week.
No, not this week. We've trained you well.
Well, before we start trying to get back on schedule, I wanted to get your thoughts, because I had a couple of questions on this already, but from Sharon, what are your thoughts on the wide receiver spot and where the Chiefs are right now?
It's the same as it was on our podcast this past Sunday. It will not change. I don't know if they necessarily needed to add a veteran receiver. Like the names I mentioned, Damani Brown obviously signed elsewhere. He was probably the most, I would say, to use the Travis Kelce word, the most electric. But, I'll use explosive. He's the most dynamic, explosive wide receiver that they could have gotten. He would have been like with them re-signing Hollywood Brown, he would have been a 4. Had the Chiefs not brought Hollywood Brown back, I think they would have gotten in the receiver market for a Josh Palmer or for a Devontae Brown. Tutu Atwell re-signed with the Rams for $10 million a year for some reason. Not him doing that, but like them paying him $10 million. I don't know why, but that's like because Tutu Atwell is very similar in their offense to what McCole Hardman was here for the Chiefs. So that's a lot of money to pay for a guy that you're going to give a handful of snaps to, and a guy that's going to be probably 4th on your depth chart behind Puga Nacua and Devontae Adams, and we'll see what else the Rams do at receiver. I think they got more up their sleeve, but from a Chiefs perspective, there's really not necessarily much other than somebody you're trying to get near vet minimum. And I personally, I'm of the belief you draft a wide receiver every year, especially in the first 4 rounds. Somebody you develop, somebody that you have, because when you look at the overall cost in the NFL, quarterback, that's raising to 50 to 60 million a year. So I don't think that's going to come down unless the NFL salary cap comes down significantly at some point, which isn't going to happen anytime soon. Then you have wide receivers that are now teetering to that $30 to $40 million per year range. You have edge rushers that are starting to rise to a very expensive level with all the recent things between that 25 to 35 or $40 million range down the road here. So those positions, and then left tackle, once you find it, you hold on to that left tackle for dear life if they're even a top 15 left tackle, and you do not let them go. It's like in Tommy Boy, whenever he's talking about the role or whatever. It's my precious little thing. So that's how you have to handle that. So those positions you always need to invest in the draft, just simply to keep the cost down if you have to. But also those positions are so valuable, you can trade some of those positions for draft capital. And if the Chiefs continue to have the conference championships and the Super Bowl appearances or Super Bowl wins, they're going to need more draft capital down the road. And so players like that at those positions, outside of quarterback, you routinely, if you can invest in those spots and kind of always have somebody essentially in the grain bin, as you put it from a farm term, then you could be able to turn that into a great investment for future draft capital.
There you go. Going over to the super chats, Black and Gold. How high is edge on the draft priority list? I mean, Nick, I'm still expecting the Chiefs are going to address edge somehow in free agency. I mean, it's whether it's bringing back one of their own guys. I mean, I do think there'd be some interest in bringing back Charles Omenihu at the right price, but they need help on the defensive line across the board. So, both drafting an edge, signing an edge, not out of the realm of likelihood for me. I mean, I think both those things are likely.
Yeah, to put it bluntly, the reality is this: it's Chris Jones and a bunch of guys. Like, that's what that pass rush has kind of turned into. When Charles Omenihu was able to be out there, he did the best he could with where his knee was at. But George Karlaftis needs somebody. He needs a Chris Jones, and if he can get Charles Omenihu or a player like that on the line with him, that's when he performs at his best, and that's when he can get some one-on-ones and occasionally take advantage of those one-on-ones. And if the coverage is great, then he really takes advantage of it, like he did in that Houston Texans game when he had the 3 sacks based on the coverage and Chris Jones getting the attention that he did, and Omenihu getting part of the attention he did. So that was what led to George's day, was all 3 of those factors. And so for the most part, if I'm in the Chiefs' shoes, at minimum, you draft 2 defensive linemen coming up here. Does not matter what round it is. One of those guys that I really am hoping they draft will be a guest on 41 is the Mic next week when we do that. So he will be, and we will try to get a lot more draft prospects on there that apply to the Chiefs, and also some local influence as well. So we're doing all that collectively. So that'll be some bonus episodes during the week. But to get back to the defensive line overall, they need a one tech that can help force Chris to not be in double teams. They need a one tech who can have some pass rush ability that they can put next to Chris Jones, and Chris isn't taking on double teams all the time. Offensive lines can't dedicate 2 guys to him or have to adjust their entire pass protection to Chris Jones. That is one of the number 1 priorities. Then You want a 3 tech who is the heir apparent to Chris, who can learn from him, give him some snaps off. And if Chris were to, hopefully it doesn't happen, but if he were to get hurt, you have a guy who can fill into that role. With Tershawn Wharton moving on to the Panthers, you really need that a lot more than now. And finally, depending on what happens to Charles Omenihu or what you do with the other defensive end spot, you do need another defensive end, because with George Karlaftis, you're probably going to exercise that 5th-year option, and then how he does this year will determine what you potentially do. And as we talked about on our previous podcast, when you're looking 2 to 3 years ahead, Chiefs are going to have to decide if they want to pay Trent McDuffie, if they want to pay George, and if they don't, they minimum need to exercise their 5th-year option to create leverage for a potential trade if they were to trade them off for draft picks. I'm not saying they should do that. I'm not saying they will do that. I'm just saying that's something every general manager has to entertain if they're trying to create more draft capital long term. So I say at minimum, if you can get 2 defensive linemen in the draft, great. But if you want to know, in every single mock draft I do, I always trade down and I get 3 defensive linemen. And I get a corner and I get a receiver, and I make sure I get a running back, if not 2.
There you go. I mean, there's no doubt. I feel pretty comfortable that the Chiefs are going to come out of the draft. I think they're come out with 2 defensive linemen, because they need both edge and tackle. And like I said, I assume that they're still going to invest some free agent resources into it too. So, because like you said, I mean, looking at the roster right now, basically have 4 NFL defensive linemen on the roster. And that's saying with Dana and Karlaftis as your starters, with what you have to assume that Anadike Uzama is until he proves that he is something else, that he is a situational, rotational edge piece. So if he can prove something, he's more than that this year, great. But that's what you have to assume at this point. And then you have Chris Jones, and right now nobody else. Maybe you get some pieces back, rotational pieces like a Derek Nottie, but you need more impact because they need to get after the quarterback. They didn't do it well enough last year, which means that just bringing back the guys you had isn't good enough.
Yeah, I'm just seeing Demarcus Robinson deciding to sign with the 49ers.
Well, the 49ers have landed somebody. They've stopped the sieve of everybody leaving. And that was a name that I threw out that I thought, hey, Chiefs might be interested in. But that's $6 million guaranteed, 2 years. That's not bad, but that's still more, I think, than the Chiefs want to pay for a receiver. But Brenda wants to know if we have any idea who is going to be the backup quarterback.
Matt, I'll let you go first while I pull up a sheet that I need to look at.
I mean, I've been looking at it, and my default assumption is still that it's going to be Carson Wentz. I mean, I think that would be my plurality pick. I'm not saying it's 50%, maybe 40% confidence that it's going to be Carson Wentz, but I just don't know if there's a clear-cut organization out there that's going to, give Carson Wentz a chance to come in and compete for a starting job. If that doesn't happen, then coming back to Kansas City is a great place to be. I mean, he's comfortable there. It's obviously went relatively well, and that's assuming that the Chiefs want Carson Wentz back. Mm-hmm. I haven't heard that they haven't, but haven't heard that they are getting him back either. So there's always the outside possibility that, hey, if maybe the Chiefs are comfortable enough with Chris Oladokun, that you go with him as your backup and you get another developmental quarterback to carry on the practice squad behind him. Oladokun's a smart enough guy that he can help you out as far as being that sounding board in the locker room, in the quarterback room. I still think they would like somebody else. I mean, Bailey Zappi, I know, is out there. He's, I believe, unsigned and a free agent. But looking at it, I mean, unless there's a reclamation project, the next one down the road, Drew Lock's a free agent, Nick?
He is.
So I don't know. I look at the free agent quarterbacks, and outside of Carson Wentz, I just don't see a name that just pops out to me and says, oh, yeah, that makes sense for the Chiefs.
So with the quarterback room, part of what you're trying to do is I think the Chiefs personally are trying to bring in different backup quarterbacks that, one, can execute the offense if they need to, have familiarity with the offense from a different offensive coordinator that runs a similar style, and on top of it, are an individual that can give Mahomes a new perspective. Because Blaine Gabbert was able to give him part of the Tom Brady experience and the Tom Brady perspective, and hadn't worked in with Tom Brady, so he could help him there. Blaine had been on a Super Bowl team before, kind of understood the pressure and could kind of help out and had enough veteran experience. Then you take somebody like Carson Wentz, had a lot of veteran experience, was a part of the Super Bowl team there in Philly, and also had, like I said, had experience in Doug Peterson's scheme and could do that. So if there was an individual that I think I will be keeping an alert on, and Matt, for the Carson Wentz part, I got sneaky suspicion if there's a spot he goes, it's going to be the Tennessee Titans. That's a spot where it would be smart for him to go and go be with Mike Bergonzi and go work for Callahan and try to give himself at least one more opportunity to showcase himself if he can. And I think that gives him, I think Tennessee gives him a much better opportunity than Kansas City would if he wants to potentially be a starter again or put together some starting tape.
If you want to start, you can get an opportunity. Go someplace terrible. I mean, there's no doubt about that, because there's a chance that they'll blow out their quarterback, or their quarterback's going to get destroyed behind a bad offensive line. So
individuals I'm kind of intrigued by. Gardner Minshew had time in the Jaguars scheme, so he would be able to run that shotgun, be able to run that quick release if they need to, and potentially be able to execute on that front. Has a lot of experience bouncing around the league. Then Tyler Huntley from the Dolphins, I'm intrigued by. Comes from obviously from the Ravens scheme for a little bit. I'd be intrigued there. Drew Lock is just somebody that I think could be a good backup for Mahomes and get the opportunity to kind of develop here in Kansas City more so, but he may want to stay in New York or find himself another opportunity to compete for a starting job, since he's still at that age range to where he's just in the peak of who he could potentially be as a quarterback. So those are kind of, for the most part, those are the ones that I'm interested to see what they end up doing. And Sam Ellinger is somebody I wouldn't be completely against if the Chiefs decided to add him on to the roster along with Chris Oladokun.
Yeah, I mean, there are some interesting, when you put it in that context. I mean, there are some interesting names out there. I mean, maybe fit into that kind of profile a little bit. That and I'm looking at a current list of free agents, so somebody might have signed in the last 2 hours, and I'm behind. But if you want to go with the former 49er Brandon Allen. I don't know if Taylor Heineke's in that category yet, but Cooper Rush, Tim Boyle, Easton Stick. I mean, maybe there's a few out there that could be in that conversation. Kyle Allen might be kind of, getting to that point, but
I just realized what's missing, all these graphics that I normally see.
Oh yeah. I tell you what, man, Nick, I was like,
man, this room looks really bare right now.
I'm on fire, aren't I? There you go. How's that?
I hope not. If not, let me call 911 for you.
Jesus with the super chat question: can we get the Q&A on the pod? I tell you what, this is high on my priority list. Is to be able to get a podcast stream. I'm working on it. So Jesus, hopefully, and because your question has brought it back up to my attention, I'm going to move it up the priority list. So let me see what I can do for you, Jesus. But it is on the list of projects. So I'm going to do my best for you now, since you asked about it.
I'm confused. What are we talking about here?
We're talking about putting the Q&A on a podcast stream so that you can get it not just on YouTube. Get it as a podcast.
Okay, yes. I feel you knocking. I'll let you.
Because I think we got some issues putting it on the 41 as the mic, but I've got a solution that I've been working on and a workaround. So
good luck with that.
Thank you. I think this is where we were at 7:08, just because now I'm 38 minutes behind, 36 minutes behind. Brenda wants to know if we're good with the signing so far. Are you? I'm good with the signing so far, Nick.
They've hit on the positions that I had in my article. So, I mean, as long as they can add some defensive line and wide receiver through the draft, I mean, they put themselves in a good spot. So, I mean, obviously, any more veteran depth that you can get for cheap, I'm never going to be against in any way, shape, or form. So, like, I'm not going to knock them on anything that they do from that front, because, like I said, any more depth you can add, always good. But as long as they've put themselves in a spot with the signings that they made and the re-signings they brought back, they put themselves in a spot they don't have to reach anywhere. And that's the biggest thing overall. is they don't necessarily have to take a tackle at 31 if they don't have a first-round grade on that player. They can now trade back and get more picks if they need to. They don't have to take a receiver at 31. They don't have to take a defensive lineman at 31. If a player drops and he's the best player, the Chiefs can take it and not worry about it. So the problem I think the Chiefs have kind of run into from time to time is they got stuck there because the team didn't want to trade into that spot, and they just had to take who was the highest graded player left on their board. And at times that turned into a Clyde Edwards-Helaire or maybe another player that I will remain nameless right now.
I think I agree with that largely. I will say that I think they are precariously close to being in a situation where they have to come out of the first round with a defensive lineman. That might not be the bad place to be because that is obviously one of the strengths of this draft. And everybody seems to think that there's going to be some quality defensive line depth late in the first round available. So maybe that's not the worst place to be, but I still think you would feel a lot better because, and Brett Veach, I mean, he is a firm subscriber to the philosophy that if you had to go out and play a game the day before the draft, that you could do it and be competitive at every position, and that therefore you are not forced to reach at any spot. But I think they're precariously close to that way on the defensive line. That's why I think they still have some work to do. So,
well, good news. It's only March 11th. They got time.
And Brendan appreciates that. Thanks for all the work and the answers. Of course, Brendan, thank you for the super chat feedback. You are greatly appreciate that. I love all of our long times and active questioners, and you were among the best, Brenda. So thank you very much as always. I'm going to go back to Chris's question real quick because I clicked on the wrong one, Brian, but you're next. So would you have done the Joe Thuney deal if you were the GM?
I don't know, Matt. Would I have done the Joe Thuney deal if I was the GM?
I think you would have.
You think I would have?
I think you would have.
You think I would have?
I mean, I haven't asked you specifically, so I don't.
We literally had that conversation before it all.
I don't know if we had that specific,
we did
direct question.
We did.
Then I'm pretty sure that you would do that.
Yes, I would definitely do that. Yep. And there's guys currently on this roster right now that I would also be shopping. Because for people that don't know, it didn't follow me in Twitterland back in the early Andy Reid days before Patrick Mahomes, I was willing to trade Justin Houston before that 5-year, $100 million deal. I was like, he doesn't necessarily isn't a closer as an edge rusher in the draft, and like see what you can get pick wise for him. And then on top of that, I was good with when they traded when they potentially were debating between with Eric Berry. With his situation, I would have been completely fine if they had, tried to see if they get some picks for him. And there's multiple occurrences on that. It wasn't just one where there was opportunities to potentially do that if they wanted to. And then, I don't know, there's another, like obviously Alex Smith, that's a no-brainer one but I'm always of the belief that if you trade an individual that can get you probably 2 to 4 picks, then as long as you've got a good scouting department or a good GM that can identify talent, that's how you stay on top the way that you want to. A great quarterback and constantly being able to replenish a roster with draft picks. So yeah, Joe Thuney was at an age where I'm 100% for doing what they did.
Yeah, same. I mean, I love Joe Thuney. I think he's one of the best in the biz at his position, but hey, there's a reality and a math to it, which is that his best football is behind him. You could save $16 million this year in the salary cap. I mean, you're going to be paying your cap hit for Jalen Moore is less than that. So, trading Joe Thuney gets you a 4th round pick. It gets you Jalen Moore plus another player. I mean, you're going to be able to, I mean, if you want to say it's Elijah Moore or Elijah Mitchell, go with that. Because that's about that. Still a little bit less. You can even add a 3rd player. So, Joe Thuney, trading him away lets you get a left tackle. It's going to let you probably address another position or two. And then that's not even mentioning the draft pick you got back, which looking at past trades for similar positions for similar players, I mean, a lot of teams, Nick, would have just been in this position where they just would have released Joe Thuney to get the salary cap savings and wouldn't have even gotten a pick back. So the fact that she's got to pick back and a decent one at that, yeah, it would have been a hard trade to do. I get it, but yeah, I would have done it as well. Brian, how much do the Titans want for that first pick? More than the Chiefs have.
They will want this entire Chiefs draft and a lot of day 1 and day 2 a Chiefs draft next year, if that's what you're trying to do.
And I mean, and hey, if you're the Chiefs and player that you want, you don't have to go up to number 1. So, hey, you get to work with Mike Bergonzi, but if you're the Chiefs and you want to address the need that you want to address, you don't need to get to 1. You just need to get to the top 15. Jedi, have the Chiefs made a cap move yet? Been playing PoE2 all day. Not yet. Nothing. I haven't seen anything official, Nick. I don't know if you have your scenes, but
no, they'll deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah, we usually get the pin strokes of that on Wednesday, and literally for a guy like Mahomes, it's literally a pin stroke because he doesn't have to even be involved. I mean, the Chiefs just can sign a piece of paper that converts that roster bonus into a signing bonus, and Mahomes doesn't have to do anything. So some players have contracts like that. Patrick does. I don't know if Chris's contract is set up that way. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. So, but I don't expect. I mean, the Chiefs aren't going to have to make any cap moves between now and tomorrow. They're not going to need to release anybody to get under the cap. They're just going to have to move some money around. So, Luttrell, do you think Trey's new contract gets done this week? I think it may have been last week, Nick, that I said that I thought that the 14th was kind of a soft deadline. I think it's going to take longer than that. I think that I get the sense that between just everything going on in free agency and where, Brett Veach kind of likes to work from the salary cap, I think he wants to get a few things done, see where he's at and what kind of cap number that he needs and wants to get to for 2025 and work from that approach. Cause I think he likes to be able to go to go to an agent in this situation and go to the player and say, okay, here's what we've done. Here's how much I can afford in year 1. Let's work from there. So let's get you a contract, but you've got to make sure you fit year 1 for us.
So, I mean, look, obviously I would love for it to be done tomorrow, be done and over with and create a lot of cap room. That'd be fantastic. We'll see what ends up happening as the day goes tomorrow. But hey, if it takes longer, it takes longer. But there will be some opportunities for the Chiefs to create cap space between Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, and maybe even Travis Kelce potentially if they need to.
Brian, Reed or Minihue. Now, it's not going to be Justin Reed because he signed with the Saints because he's very excited to go back to Louisiana. And I get it. He's going to be able to team up with Tyrann Mathieu. That's going to be a pretty good secondary, Nick. Be a lot of fun for Saints fans to watch.
It is very interesting that the Saints keep taking every single player that seems to leave the Chiefs defense, secondary-wise, which means they have a lot of respect for Dave Merritt, and they keep trying to take all of Dave Merritt's players.
So maybe that's what Brian is saying. Maybe he's saying that Charles Minihue is going to go to the Saints next.
Well, it seems like their pattern is linebackers under Brendan Daly and secondary under Dave Merritt. So
those are a couple of good positions to steal if you're going to steal anything.
Well, they're not stealing them; they're free agents.
Well, no, but if you're gonna sign some guys, signing guys that Brendan Daly and Dave Merritt have coached, because between the two of them, Nick, they've got like 18 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah, got a couple.
Tyler, prediction on what else the Chiefs do besides converting Mahomes' contract to get extra cap space? We kind of just nailed it right there. I mean, Chris Jones is the number 1. Maybe you rework Travis's contract and, give him a second year or put some void years on it. I mean, even though the Chiefs are not big fans of that, there's a few different things that they can do. So they are going to be fine cap-wise. Albert, does Karlaftis get the 5th-year option? I mean, we've been talking about this, Nick. I get this. I get the sense I don't know. Would you pick up the 5th-year option right now? Because you're going to have to make that decision by May 5th. Would you pick up the 5th-year option on George Karlaftis?
Yeah, I already just answered it a couple of minutes ago. You do that, whether you keep him or you potentially traded him down the road, you need that 5th-year option as leverage to kick the can down the road of if you're having to pay him more than $13 million a year.
Are you saying I wasn't paying attention?
I don't know what to tell you, sir.
Sometimes I'm in my older age, Nick. Sometimes I can't read and hear at the same time. So I'm gonna have to take the L on that one. The Dockster. Do you think there is any chance of the Chiefs trading up for a stud left tackle in the first round? We talked about this on Sunday, Nick, on the 41 is the mic. They really don't have this year. Unless they make some moves, they pick up some more draft capital. I mean, they really don't have the move to get up into the top 15. And I'm not super enamored with this draft class either.
First, here's the thing I'm telling you. Y'all need to listen to the 41 is the mic every Sunday. Like 90% of what you guys ask us, we've already done like a 40 minutes to hour long podcast about a lot of these topics. And that's one of those topics we talk about how Brett Veach has to approach the next 3 years of roster building and creating draft capital. So part of it is in terms of trading up for stud left tackle. That was last year. His name was Joe Alt. Did you have to give up probably your entire draft to do it? Yeah, probably so. You're going to have to give up multiple years of your draft to get somebody like Joe Alt. But here's the thing, and here's the reality about it. The reason I was so gung-ho about it is because Joe Alt is a once-in-a-decade player as an offensive tackle who is fundamentally sound already, did not really need coaching at Notre Dame on the finer points that most offensive tackles don't have by the time they get to the NFL. Joe Alt already had it down pat. Why did he have it down pat? He had some guy named John Alt that was his dad. That was great for the Chiefs and then the Chiefs Hall of Fame. So his dad taught him so much stuff. That whole family is just full of athletes. And Matt and I talked to him on our podcast literally just a couple days before the NFL draft, whenever he was going to get drafted in the top 10. And a lot of you did not watch it. And I was very disappointed in all of you. You should watch it because it was great. But my point is, though, if that's the time you risk it all for the farm, it was then. It was then, because we're not having this conversation all year long. We're not having this conversation right now. It is a 10-year franchise tackle. You'll pay him a couple times, and you'll set it and forget it, just like, an infomercial. So, like, could they do it now? Sure. They could try to go get Will Campbell from LSU. But when you trade up, there's two things that have to happen. You got to be okay with giving up a second rounder at minimum, probably a third rounder, probably an additional first or second rounder for a couple years that add up, and you better be right because you're mortgaging a lot of your future. And with somebody like Joe Alt, you were not mortgaging the future. That guy was meant to be a left tackle, and literally he came from a family that was, that was bred into him. So that's all I got on that one.
Yeah, I mean, last year was a really deep tackle class. I mean, obviously, I'm going back and looking at it because outside of Joe Aldrich, getting to 5, I mean, yeah, that would have been impossible to do for the Chiefs. I mean, I still would have tried it. I would have offered 3 number ones for Joe Alt, but you had what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tackles that went in the top 18, 6 in the top 20. And Amarius Mims is going to be the one to me that's a kind of a measuring stick, because you would have probably had to get in front of, because that was the Bengals, I think, that took him, or the Bengals. So you would have had to get the 17 to realistically get him. I mean, if Amarius Mims turns into a Pro Bowl, All Pro type player, then that's going to be okay. You should have made the move to get a guy because you badly needed a left tackle, and that should have been the move that you made. How often are you going to be able to find a left tackle when you're the Chiefs drafting at the end of the first round and there's one available in the late teens? I mean, if Mims goes past 20, maybe Brett Veach does it. So maybe it just needed to be a couple of more spots for him to make a move. But that's always going to be one that is a potential got away. Now, if Amarius Mims doesn't turn into anything, all that in a bag of chips, then yeah, you can absolutely make the argument that they did the right thing. But that's going to be a measuring stick for me, because that's a player that realistically the Chiefs could have gotten. So,
Matt, you got me till 8:30, so you better start cranking.
Steven, is Brett mortgaging the future to win now?
No. That's all I know.
I didn't know if you had anything to expand.
Nope. I'm trying to speed up our process here right now.
Brian, hoping teams are terrified of Amenahu's knee. Do you have any concerns about Amenahu? I think Amenahu's going to be stronger this year than last year, but
I think he'll have a much better year this year than last year, but because he's coming off that injury and didn't showcase who he was the previous year, which is to be expected given the injury he went through, teams are going to offer kind of more prove it with incentive laden deal to it. And probably they're only offering 1 year, maybe 2 years with the ability to get out after one. And that market, I think, is going to take a little bit to get to the point where he wants.
Scott with the super chat, Nick. Mizzou's Armin Membu projects as a guard in the NFL for some. If he falls to 30, 31, do you take him?
He is an individual that has lightning quick feet and is freakishly athletic. It's just a matter of what team he ends up going to in the situation he's in. I think long term he'll be a Pro Bowl guard, and that's really not an issue in any way, shape, or form. Some people think he can be a tackle, and he might be. But I know either way, he's the pride of Lee Summit North. And yeah, I mean, the problem is, guys, from a tackle perspective, the arm length isn't what the Chiefs normally want. But somebody like Jalen Moore kind of, in that ballpark for the most part. So the Chiefs are willing to take a chance on it. So if you subscribe to the Chiefs theory that you've got to have a certain level of arm length on a regular basis, that eliminates a lot of players very quickly. So somebody like Membu is going to be somebody that like they would be taking a little bit of a chance on from what they normally do arm length wise, but the athletic ability and the technique makes up for it.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. I mean, obviously, and that's one of the problems with this year's left tackle class is that they're all a bunch of T-Rexes, Nick. I mean, I wish one of them had 35-inch arms, but none of them do. So, and the Chiefs, I mean, they're not really in a position that they can afford to take a guy whose fallback is being a guard because they're set at guard. I mean, if they're not set at guard, they've got some problems because they're signing one. They've got Kingsley. They've got Hunter Norzad. So they should be in a pretty good situation. So I've got some concerns there that if they don't. So I just don't think you can afford to take a guy that you feel like that the fallback is that he can be a high end guard. He's got to be a left tackle.
So I mean, for Membo, he's at 33 and a half. Chiefs are normally at 34 and like 1/4 or 34 and a half.
34 is kind of their good number that they want you to be at on the north side of that. Steeman, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
I was giving you the time if you needed it, but you're there. Proud of you.
Steeman Demon over the cap says 19.5 million. Spotrac 17 million. That the Chiefs are over the cap without Mitchell or Fulton listed. Are the Chiefs closer to 27 to 30? What is realistic? I will say, I mean, it's super hard this time of year when everything is moving so quickly to know for sure where the Chiefs are, where the teams are on the cap space right now. I'm looking at over the cap just to see where they are this moment in time and what they've got. And remember, I mean, a lot of the contracts that they're adding, they've got lower numbers in year one than in year two. And yeah, you're right. Elijah Mitchell is not listed in there, but he's not a super high number for year one. And I mean, we don't know. I have not seen yet, and don't even have his contract structure in there yet.
Well, they won't have any of them in there because they can't formally sign until Thursday.
Well, yeah, but some of them they have put in there for ones that they at least think they have the numbers.
They think you're talking about over the cap. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of
NFLPA.
Yeah, I'm like, buddy, they're not.
And this time of year, the NFLPA is woefully behind, so they're even harder to use.
They're not going to get the paperwork till tomorrow. So I mean,
yeah. Let's see. I was looking. They do have at least over the cap does have Jalen Moore's built in there.
Well, yeah, that's because Aaron Wilson was able to get it.
Right. Yeah, and Fulton's not in there either, and I do say just based on what I'm told by people who know in NFL front offices that hey, as far as being the most accurate for the Chiefs, over the cap is usually the better estimator in that regard. So right now they're at 19. I mean, Chiefs could be somewhere between 25 and 30, but remember, they could get up to 26 by just taking all of Mahomes' roster bonus and converting that into a signing bonus. So Mahomes alone would wipe out all of that. And then they're going to be able to get Trey Smith done at some point, and that's going to bring down his first year cap number. So they're going to be fine, but it doesn't mean that, hey, they're not going to have to start filling out a lot of the rest of the roster with some vet minimum contracts. Infopocalypse, any word on if talks with McDuffie have started? Price will only go up if Sauce and Stingley sign first. I mean, I haven't gotten any indication yet, Nick, that there's been any conversations. Obviously, January, February was really the first time that they could start talking. And I normally, for these kind of guys, I mean, really the conversation doesn't start until after free agency and first conversations, even if then. So I'm sure that they will probably have some conversations before May 5th when you've got to pick up the 5th-year option for both those teams. But this would be a little early for the Chiefs. I know some teams do go at it differently, but Veach always seems to me like, Nick, like he's a guy. Now, granted, he hasn't had a lot of opportunities because he hasn't had a ton of first-round picks and he's got 5th-year options on. But I mean, typically he starts a little bit later, I think, than a lot of teams do.
So here's something I want people to remember, so I don't have to answer this question each week. After draft and training camp, that's the window. That's normally whenever you start planning for 2026 in terms of extension. Creed Humphrey got his around training camp. Chris Jones got his like before July. 1 year. Chris, for all the players combined, just let me put it this way. Mahomes got his done on July 5th. So what I want you guys to remember is when you do it all together, just think of after the draft until August, because it's okay. Like it's fine to worry about extensions and be like, well, the price is going to go, the price is going. Price is already where it's at. Like I don't think people understand. Like people pretend that like the price is really going to go up. It's gonna, yeah. You want to let you in on a dirty little secret? The agents already know that, so they're going to drag their feet if there's a player that's really going to reset the market and they hear about it. Drew Rosenhaus, Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to take you through that one real quick. Tyreek Hill, Chiefs were offering, supposedly from what I was told, they're offering $25 a year, right there at that market value and everything. Then feet kept dragging because there was a rumor going around that Devontae Adams is going to reset the market and he might get 30. Then Devontae Adams got 30. Boom. And then now that's what magically Rosenhaus like, hey, yeah, that number was good, but, we like a new number. And then, guess what happens? Tyreek got traded. So the point I'm getting at is like, I need you guys to not think of the price will only go up, because each agent is dragging their feet so they can get as close to that top dollar as possible. Like every wide receiver right now that needs a new contract, they're waiting on Jamar Chase, just waiting for Jamar Chase to get to 40 million so they can force their way up to that and be like, well, my client's done this and this. My client's done this and this. They deserve this number. They deserve this number and this number. And that's how it goes. So I'm just telling you guys, I know everybody thinks, hey, well, they should get it done before it gets too expensive. Here's a spoiler alert.
It's already expensive.
You do it. Do what?
It's already expensive.
It's already expensive. And here's the other kicker. You do it right when year 3. Like you do it right here. As soon as negotiations are up, that's when you try to do that. If you have the cap room. And if you don't have a whole bunch of holes to fill. So like I hope this answers the question. If it doesn't, that's my bad. I mean, not really, but I'm gonna take ownership like Andy Reid does when he say, that's on me. But like I'm just telling you, like they're all gonna get top dollar no matter what.
My favorite super chat question of all time, Steam and Demon wants to know, what's my dinner snack? Hungry Minds want to know. I was afraid somebody was going to eventually notice that and decide to ask. I am having my classic dinner snack, Nick. It is tuna salad with crunched up potato chips in it. So I can just eat it with a fork and just eat it like a little salad, and I don't have to have bread or chips or anything with it because my chips are already in there. And then I don't need even more carbs from the bread or anything. So, but I didn't get a. I didn't. I had to run an errand real quick before the live stream, so I didn't get a chance to eat dinner. So,
I hate when that happens.
So
Matt, you get 20-minute warning.
I know, and it's lightning round.
You say lightning round, but
Chris, much respect. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do you think Clark Hunt is going to move the team to Kansas? I mean, if I were a betting man right now, I'd bet on Kansas. I know Missouri's going to pull something up and try to make a bid to keep this team, but there's a lot of momentum for Kansas right now. Got a good offer on the table. So I have Kansas as the favorite, but it's not over yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I can or can't comment on that circumstance situation.
I have a little bit more freedom from my employer because my employer is myself. So Nick has to cover the story a little bit differently than I do. So we're gonna give Nick a pass on that one. Charlie, are we sure that the Chiefs aren't interested in addressing left guard in the draft with T-Rex tackles that project as guards? Could allow Kingsley some time to develop at left tackle. A 2-year deal with Moore isn't long term. I mean, again, Nick, Chiefs won. They seem pretty set that Kingsley's going to be a really good guard. So why delay the inevitable?
People keep trying to fight it. People keep wanting to fight it, but
I get it. You drafted him, with the theory to be a left tackle, but I think some of it is that we haven't heard really solidly from anybody that's been on camera. So until you get it from somebody on a podium that's going to flat out just tell you, hey, yeah, we're gonna move Kingsley to guard and see what happens. I can see there's still going to be some. Are we sure about that?
Brett Veach said on a phone at 6:10 that Andy Heck thinks that Kingsley can be a really good left guard. So I don't know what more people
told us. Beat writers the same thing at the Super Bowl. So I don't
know what else everybody needs. Like people keep telling you, like, hey, here's what's happening. People like, are you sure they can't go left tackle? That ship already sailed. They've already moved on from that.
What game of Mahomes? What are the odds of bringing Willie Gay back if the Chiefs get out of the cap tomorrow? I talked about this earlier, Nick, but what are your thoughts about bringing back Willie Gay if he's available?
Vet minimum, and welcome back. Otherwise,
that's my concern is that I just think that he wants them more than that. So I think he's gonna be looking for something more. So. Going through, Dez wants to know if we hear anything about Jameis for backup quarterback. I haven't, and I don't know if it'd be a great fit, but he would be entertaining.
So I know Jameis talked at the podium during the Super Bowl and let Andy Reid know that he was a free agent if he was interested. I get all that, but I think Jameis is inching closer to his television career, where he'll be very entertaining.
I mean, he would be fascinating to cover, so I'm not going to bet against it. But I don't know. He might be a little bit more too much voltage than the Chiefs want for the quarterback room. Doctor Who, is the spending lately because Veach doesn't have Bergonzi to tell him no, or Clark Hunt opening the wallet? I mean, I've always been a little bit more of a Clark Hunt defender on this because I think he has spent appropriately. I think he's consistently given Brett Veach as much of a checkbook as he needs. I mean, let's face it, the man's put a lot of money into escrow for Mahomes alone that we don't even talk about. So has Brett lost his governor with Bergonzi? Maybe. I mean, those two are pretty close, but I think between Chris Shea and Mike Bradway, Tim Terry, I still think that Brett's got some guys around him that are willing to say, hey, Brett, I don't know about this.
I don't know. We'll see how free agency unfolds. I have no answer on it either way. They're doing what they got to do to try to get back to the Super Bowl.
But then again, I mean, Mike spent some money that I'm not sure Brett would have spent. So,
yeah, Mike did get a left tackle that cost about $80 million.
Oh, Bill, Matt, Nick, isn't it true that the Chiefs sooner or later will have to find a way into the top 15 to get a good franchise, if you will, left tackle? I mean, unless you just blindly find one, Nick, you will tell us what you told us on Sunday that yes, you have to be.
If only there was a podcast that we did on Sunday that we went insanely in depth on this on. Please check out 41 as a mic from this past Sunday. But to answer your question in short, Bill, yes, they're going to have to figure out a way to get more draft capital to trade up at some point in the next handful of years. And if you'd like more on that, check out 41 as a mic from this past Sunday.
Hey, and Jarrett Stidham's got an extension in Denver, so he will not be the backup to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that was never happening.
Why did Chiefs sign Robert Tonyan? He hasn't played in a while. He was on Chiefs practice squad at the end of the year. He did play 5 games sparingly for the Vikings last year. He's a veteran. I mean, Chiefs are going to see what they got in him and see if there's anything that fits in. I mean, decent blocker, right, Nick?
That's what I would have signed him for, is just to see if he can take away some of the reps that Travis Kelce had to block on.
Jesus, will the Bengals suck even more if they pay Chase? I mean,
I don't know about that, but I hope they keep paying all their offense. Pay them all. Pay T. Higgins $40 million. Pay Jamar $40 million. Pay Joe Burrow $80 million, and just good luck to you.
Charlie gets it. Legal tampering enthusiast Nick Jacobs.
Whoa, you forgot Daniel above him with the Cooper.
Oh, there you go. I missed the question mark. I'm sorry, Daniel. Cooper Kupp, yay or nay?
It's a no for me.
It's a no for me as well. Yeah, I don't see the fit. He's old. T-Bills, do you think Chiefs will go out and sign one or two of these free agent D linemen? Seems to be the weakest positional group currently. I mean, I'm going to tend to agree. I think it is the weakest position group right now. They don't have a lot of numbers there, Nick, and I would sign one or two.
If they can get a couple guys anywhere between vet minimum with incentives or anything below $7 million a year, go for it, swing for it. Then, like I said previously in the Q&A, draft. If you can get 2 or 3 defensive linemen in the draft, out a couple free agents, then let's get this party started and get a new pass rush going, where it's not just Chris Jones rushing by himself.
Really fascinating. Interested to know your answer on this one, Nick, because this has been kind of a hot topic today from Mark. With the acquisition of Christian Fulton today, and all the talk about moving McDuffie into the slot more, does that affect his upcoming contract? Nickel corner versus boundary. And I'll ask you, Nick, I mean, how do you feel like Fulton's going to fit in here? Would you do what like Mark's talking about here? Would you see McDuffie going back to the slot more? And
yeah, I think Jalen Watson and Fulton are going to be the outside corners. I think McDuffie's going to switch and rotate, but it gives them 3 guys in case somebody gets hurt, where McDuffie could easily bounce back outside. So it gives them more versatility overall, depending on the opponents they're going to face. So I think every option's on the table.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Trent McDuffie's still going to be on the field for every single snap. It's just going to be whether he's on the inside or outside to me. I think this is just more likely that he plays much more back in the slot, because that allows Jamari Conner to play a lot more safety, and I think they need him in more at safety. Nikki, do you think Jalen Moore would have made the difference in the Super Bowl?
No. There was a lot more bigger problems in left tackle. Like that.
She's got out efforted.
The whole line had O-line had scheme issues. Play calling had scheme issues, and that loss was as much on the coaches as it was the deficiencies in the roster that the Eagles exposed mightily.
Jeremy, I know how this sounds, but how good would an off year do for the Chiefs? Meaning miss the playoffs, rest wise only. Nobody's played this many games in 7 years. I mean, I don't think even rest is that big of a deal, Nick, but if the Chiefs had a terrible year, the nice thing is that you'd get a top 15 pick.
Well, there's only one way they're going to have a terrible year, and I can't believe Jeremy's wishing that upon him.
And yeah, because I'm not even going to say, but there is only one way you're going to have a down year. And you all know how that is, so I'm not even going to say it for you. Not going to be your curse. I don't want to be blamed for it.
I'm proud of you for not saying it.
Tyler, where's all this money coming from that they spent? Mahomes' roster bonus won't be enough, right? It'll get them most of the way there, Tyler. I mean, you'd be surprised. But between, like we talked about, that, Chris Jones, a few other things, they're okay. They're okay on money. And then once they get trade done, they'll be even better.
All right. Here's the thing people need to realize. Just because you see the headline says the Chiefs have agreed to terms with Timmy Timerson on a 5-year deal, doesn't mean that Timmy Timerson signed the contract. Like the second the cap hits, it doesn't count until the contract is signed and executed. So what I need people to understand is just because you already saw the headline and like you're already moved on with your life, so you're like, oh great, they're part of the Chiefs. They haven't signed on the dotted line. Those guys that are undrafted free agents haven't even taken a physical yet. Joe Thuney hasn't taken a physical in Chicago yet. So like the Chiefs can't execute a lot of things until after that's done. So whatever money they move with Mahomes is based on what they've already negotiated with those guys that they need to create cap space wise. So they will create that cap space for those guys that they have agreed to terms with, and then they will move on from there. So like just let the puzzle pieces come together. Let's get the puzzle pieces out of the box. We'll put them together one by one, and then we'll get there. Can't have the full picture right now.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Rooster. I don't even know you, but I like your style.
Brian, should the Chiefs have an offer on the table for a Minihue so nobody flinches him on the cheap? I mean, the Chiefs, hey, Brett Veach and agents have a pretty, good understanding about things, and especially a player like a Minihue. I mean, if the Chiefs want a player back, they're going to tell exactly that message to the agent. Hey, love to have your player back. It's got to be at the right price, though. So we'll let you shop. If you get a better offer, let us know. We'll see if we can match it. If not, good luck. I mean, he was probably in that camp. I mean, I'm sure that if he gets an offer, I'm sure that the Minihue camp would give the Chiefs an opportunity to match. But I don't think you have to worry about the Chiefs losing anybody that they want to keep because somebody else comes along on the cheap. You're a good agent. You're always going to go back and try and get a bidding war going for your guy. So I imagine right now that there is probably a discrepancy between what the Chiefs would like to pay for Charles Minihue and how much Charles Minihue would like to make. So Nick's shaking his head.
The Bills did what I thought they would. So for people asking about Charles Minihue, this may have just helped. The Bills just signed Joey Bosa. It's a 1-year deal.
There you go.
I knew they were going to be. I thought they'd be on DK Metcalf, but I knew they were going to try something that could, in their minds, get them over the hump against the Chiefs.
1-year deal, $12.6 million.
Yeah, I'm sure it's worth up to.
Yeah, worth up to. I'm sure is the word, the phrase that's missing from there.
Yep.
So maybe that'll be in Rappaport's tweet.
I knew the Bills are going to try it. All right, Matt, we need to start rushing here with your lightning round.
KC Chiefs wide receiver DL in the first round, Nick.
Best player available. So if the best player is a wide receiver, cool. Best player is defensive lineman, cool. Whichever one's higher on the board, take them.
There you go. I'm with you on that one. The correct answer. Pano, why did Brett let these quality defensive line free agents go to other teams? I wonder if he even threw his hat in the ring. I mean, again, it's funding priorities, Nick. I mean, as much as they need some some defensive ends, they haven't been able to afford any of the guys that I think are going off the board right now.
I'm going to bring some heat at you right now. I don't know if you saw the Chiefs pass rush last year, but it was Chris Jones and a bunch of guys. It's literally what it was. So the Chiefs need to get stronger, need to get faster, need to get younger, need to get quicker on the defensive line. That's why I'm saying take as many draft picks as you can on the D line from the draft. Get them, D tackle, D end, get some speed, get some strength, bring it all together, and let's have a new party. Matt, you muted yourself.
No, I thought I unmuted myself. That was a quick take. You didn't give me a chance to finish my tuna salad.
I'm sorry.
Des wants to know who in the draft are those two guys you were talking about, Nick?
Hey, Des, thanks for trying to ruin one of our podcasts down the road here. You guys have a unique knack for always wanting to know before I'm going to tell you. So once that podcast comes out, we were waiting for a free agency to get by before we start doing some draft prospects. And I've been working hard behind the scenes to watch guys so that I can have an opinion for them. We can do a whole podcast out of each position after free agency was kind of behind us. So working on that. But don't you worry, Des. You listen to 41 as the mic every Sunday. We'll get closer to that answer for you as the 41 turns.
See, the great thing is that he pays attention, so he knows the details to know about asking about those two guys. So
no, I'm proud. No, it's great at Des.
Kudos.
Kudos. This is me being proud of Des right now.
Liam, any chance that Moore and Kingsley compete for the left tackle and left guard spots? I think letting them compete brings out the best. I mean, there's going to be plenty of competition because Jalen Moore's not getting the job handed to him at left tackle, Nick,
Nope.
and Kingsley's going to have to fight for the left guard spot too.
Yes, they will compete for it, so don't you worry.
I think there's going to be at least 3 players in the competition for the left tackle spot, and Kingsley and Hunter Nordzad's going to be already, I think, a training camp battle to watch.
I don't know why I keep getting the Cookie Monster logo, but I like it.
KC Chiefs 12. Nick, I don't see a Chiefs left tackle type in the draft. T-Rex arms all around. Do you have a later round left tackles prospect you like?
I just might, and you'll find out on a new edition of Bonanza podcast when we talk about offensive tackles in the draft.
This, if Sean had watched and seen Sunday Sound Off, Nick would know the answer to this question.
Or last week's Q&A.
If Josh Simmons falls, would his injury scare you off?
You bet. It already does, and he hasn't even fallen off yet. But yes, no, it concerns me a great deal. I'm
not as good of a researcher and scouter as Nick is that will be able to come out with my own draft board. But if I had my own draft board, he wouldn't be on it. I mean, because I wouldn't take him. I mean, I guess, like I said, I mean, maybe in the 6th round I might consider it, but that's just a medical issue to me. With that, a torn patella tendon, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, it's one of those times you got to trust what your medical staff tells you whenever they evaluate it for a physical.
And my medical staff, I don't care what my medical staff's telling me. I'm telling my medical staff, guy's got a torn patella tendon. We're not drafting him because he's not going to. I mean, the likelihood is that he doesn't play this year. So you're talking about until at least year 2, and then probably will never be 100% again.
Lightning Brown.
DJ, does Elijah Mitchell signing push selecting a running back in the draft to the later rounds? I really like Travion Henderson, but that would be an earlier pick. I mean, I think you'd still take a running back, wouldn't you, Nick?
Oh, dude, I'm taking a running back. There's a running back I got my eye on in the late first, early second round, and there's a couple other running backs I got. I'm finishing up running backs tonight, and I've got stars. Ooh, I'll open it up right now. I'll give you a spoiler. Let's see how many stars I have right now next to running backs. Matt, do you want to take a guess? Anybody in the comment section? Yes, too. How many running backs do I have starred? That means I really like them.
Man, I know you like a bunch of running backs, and I know a couple of them.
Oh, I don't like a bunch.
I'm not gonna say any names though. I'm gonna now you say not a bunch. I'm gonna have to back it down. I will say 6.
Okay, I'm gonna check the bottom of the comment section right now. See, we've got 5, 6, 5, 50, 4, 5. The actual retail price is 12.
You said it wasn't very many. I was going to guess 9.
Well, there's 32 guys in the draft that I've got that are going to likely be taken in the top 7 rounds.
If you hadn't said not very many, I would have been closer without going over.
Okay, well, not very many to me is out of 32 that are projected to be drafted. Okay, Matt.
9's still a lot. Here's what I think, though, about Brett and the draft is
Brian, you do not win. Just because you were the closest to it by saying 24 doesn't mean you win.
I think that the signing of Elijah Mitchell, I just feel like makes it more likely that Brett is going to either take a running back in the 7th round or go for an undrafted guy.
I don't know, Matt. There's a couple running backs there that are fantastic there in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. That you take them, there's going to be some magic going on in your run game.
Do you want to make a short list, Nick, of who else on the Chiefs roster you'd be shopping right now?
Boy. Sean B. If you listen to 41 as the mic from this past Sunday, I gave a whole list of who I'd be shopping. And here's the thing. People may be like, hey, I don't have time to listen at all. Here's the awesome thing. There's a transcript, and you scroll through it like I do for a lot of other content that I check out, and then I click and find that part so I can listen to it.
And 5% of the time I do put chapters in. But you know what? That's another thing that, like Jesus was asking for earlier. I need to up my game, Nick. If I get the chapters up, that'd be even easier for people. So,
well, Matt, it sounds like
that on my to-do list.
Sounds like a challenge for you.
Yeah, it sounds like a Matt's issue. So,
no, just a challenge, not an issue, just a challenge.
Dez, did that mean that you would trade McDuffie rather than pay him, Nick?
Oh, I'd shop him to see what you can get for him. But the caveat I used this past Sunday, and I'll use again, is with Trent McDuffie. The reason you would potentially feel comfortable if you did move on, if you did trade him for draft pick assets, I'm not saying you should, he's a great cornerback, but if you did, it is because you have Dave Merritt as a secondary coach. If you do not have somebody like Dave Merritt as a secondary coach, you pay Trent McDuffie and you don't even think about it. But I'm just telling you, Dave Merritt makes such a difference because the Dave Merritt's in the secondary, Brendan Daly at linebacker, Joe Cullen at D-line, they all develop their guys to the best of their ability. Just like Eric Bieniemy used to develop running backs. Didn't matter what running back he had back there. He got out the max effort from him, got him the max ability out of him. David Culley, when he was a wide receivers coach, got max ability out of him. So let's take, for example, offensive line. Offensive line, you probably need veterans that are already developed. That's the best thing that you can have for that offensive line right now. But yes, if at the end of the day, if you can get yourself a game-changing, if you believe you can get yourself a game-changing pass rusher, a game-changing left tackle, or another elite position, then somebody like Trent McDuffie would be one of your most valuable assets. Again, I am emphasizing, does not mean I would do it. I'm hoping that they pay Trent, and I'm hoping he's one of the reliable corners that you have on a regular basis. But whenever they're having to try to create draft capital, it's at least one of the thoughts they have to routinely check privately and at least think about if they're truly exploring what helps this franchise overall.
There you go. You need to take off, Nick?
I can give you a couple more minutes because I feel bad when I leave people's questions behind, but we are at 7:49 and I see there are questions all the way till 8:30. So I'll give you till 8:40, then I do have to go.
All right, Sharon, how many picks? Chiefs have 8 picks. Got 2 comp picks that the list came out today. So Chiefs have maybe an extra pick than people were thinking. So Mike, any rumblings about edge rusher before the draft? And I think he's thinking about signing. I mean, are there? I mean, I don't. You probably are going to tell me that I should have listened to the podcast, Nick.
I don't want that to be my answer, but
thus far, I mean, at this point, based on what has happened thus far, is there anybody out there that that's still available that jumps out to you that's not Charles Omenihu that you'd say, yeah, Chiefs could go try and sign that guy?
Let's see. I'm looking through here right now.
And I know it's hard keeping up with everything because, of course, I mean, I probably would have put Bosa on that list, but I don't think the Chiefs could have afforded Bosa.
So Joe Tryon from the Bucks, he's got the size and the long arms. He hasn't. I don't think he signed anywhere yet. I mean, just for like a vet minimum type deal, somebody like Cleveland Farrell is somebody I'd be intrigued by. I know he's more of a journeyman, but he's somebody I still would not be completely against if they wanted to test that out. Those are probably the primary ones because interior wise, the guy I'm still waiting to see if he gets signed or not was somebody we talked about. I mean, Morgan Fox is a solid pass rusher from the Chargers, and then I'm waiting to see, I'm looking on the list right here. Tart also from the Chargers is a guy that I think is really underrated. He's a little bit of a journeyman, but he is insanely underrated. And I haven't seen him sign anywhere yet, but I did go to the grocery store when about 5 things happened.
Yeah, and I was checking. I missed Joseph Osai coming back to the Bengals on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
So that's what I would be circling for. I'd be looking at guys who are, coming off their, because like you said, you need to get younger and you need to get faster. So I would be exclusively just looking at guys that are coming off of their rookie contracts and maybe have just not broken out yet. Tad is not a fan of paying Trey Smith, Nick. He wouldn't sign him. You can find a pass blocking guard in free agency. Would you still go ahead and sign Trey Smith?
Heck yeah.
we're agreed on that.
Yeah.
And also, this came up earlier, and I think I may have missed the question. So, thoughts on Tyler Lockett, bringing him back as wide receiver 4, bringing him back. I feel like he's been talked about going to the Chiefs so many times, and because Kevin Lockett, I feel like Tyler Lockett has been a Chief, but he hasn't.
Yeah, it's again, that's not anything more than vet minimum, and I think Tyler's going to want to go somewhere else where he gets a little bit more opportunity to kind of end his career with more catches than I think he'd get here.
Yeah, coming to Kansas City would be for the ring. I don't know Junior from Fraggle Rock, so
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Bill wants to know if you trade Chris Jones?
I don't.
Actually, you can't. I mean,
it's too much of a contract.
That contract, you can't, but
no. But if you were, this would be the year you would do it, because like with where he's at age-wise, you're gonna slowly see a decline and more injuries down the road. Logically, that's just kind of how it goes for guys that have that level of wear and tear. So you're trying to reduce the snap counts to avoid that from happening.
Tad, can the Chiefs ever get out of the bargain bin? I mean, and this is something that we talked with the Chiefs about a little bit at the Super Bowl and everything like that, Nick, is that, I mean, the Chiefs are going to make big moves going forward. Their big moves are going to be keeping their own guys. I mean, so I to me, there's a little bit of we weren't in the bargain bin because you signed Creed Humphrey. You're going to sign Trey Smith. You signed Nick Bolton. We'll see. I mean, the Chiefs are talking like they want to sign Trent McDuffie. I mean, they've made some big signings, and it's just life with a quarterback like Mahomes. Got to build a team around your superstars.
Yeah, I got nothing else for it.
No, the Chiefs did not sign Cam Robinson, so that is not a thing that happened. Don't know what number Jalen Moore is going to wear yet.
Yeah, Jalen Moore's technically not a Chief yet, so until he's a Chief, until he signs on the dotted line, until he takes his physical and signs on the dotted line, absolutely no idea.
Des, what is the expectation of the length of the Rashee Rice suspension? I mean, people who are not in the Chiefs organization, still seem to talk about 6 to 8 games. Chiefs don't think it's going to be that long. I mean, they're pretty optimistic so unless things change dramatically, I don't think it's going to be that long. So, I mean, my expectation is still 4 to 6, but the Chiefs, there's people in the organization think it's going to be less than that, but that's all I'm saying. Charlie, can Timmy Timerson set an edge?
He could back in the day.
Back in the day?
Back in the day, he could, dude. He kept rip moving and fight to seal off that edge, man. Force you to let you know this exit ramp's closed. Sorry, you got to go back inside.
Daniel, do we know if Mike Pennell is coming back or retiring yet? I think Mike probably wants to play a little bit longer, but he probably wants to wait a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens there. I mean, he's 34 now? Pretty sure he's 34.
I believe so.
Yeah, you got one couple above at 822.
Uh-oh, I'm sorry. The Uncle Charlie?
Uncle Charlie. No,
Does Nick Jacobs plan to scout a developmental tight end in the Big 12 tournament? No?
Nope, I do not. I will not be doing that personally. I will be watching some of the games, though. Just won't be seeing if they could take passes from Mahomes because they don't need 3 years to develop them.
I wonder if John Dorsey would be in the stands there in an Iowa State jersey trying to scout tight ends.
You're a football player there. You're a good person.
You're a football player.
Football player there. It's a good person.
Yes, Brian. Excellent point. Like and subscribe. Make sure you do that, people.
Oh, Matt, don't forget 826.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, dude. Don't forget 826.
All right. Well, I'm going back to that. Zadarius Smith on a 1-year vet minimum deal.
What is he, 33, 34 now? 32, 34 range?
I feel like it, but let's see. I had him up just a second ago. I can tell you for sure. Maybe.
I mean, he's still strong. He's
33.
Still insanely.
Yes.
Yeah, he's still insanely strong, but like you're kind of, if you get him, he's going to be a rotational guy that you're just hoping to get probably 300-400 snaps at best out of versus every down. but he might want to be paid like Everdown.
I am not seeing the question at 8:20.
Oh, it's not a question. It's a statement from Mr. Green.
From Jason?
Yeah.
Not real sure why this dude does this podcast, because he's a jerk to pretty much everyone. Jason, I thought I was a nice guy.
Matt, you're ruthless. Oh, man.
Running back Hamilton?
What?
I don't know.
Is that a football musical I need to go see?
My brain is too fried. I don't know if that's a free agent or a draft pick.
It might be a football musical. I don't know. Have you seen Running Back Hamilton? I hear it's great.
Running Back Hamilton.
Exactly.
There you go. Sean did watch the episode last week. Just wanted to make sure we were clear on the position about Josh Simmons' injury. Yeah, I mean, I get, there's, and I'm a self-appointed patella tendon rupture enthusiast, Nick, because of course I've had two of them myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I also know how terrible they are. So that's why, yeah, I wouldn't touch anybody with patella tendon, unfortunately. I mean, I hope it works out for the kid. Yeah. But I just wouldn't take a chance on him. Why did D-Hop not work out in KC?
I think part of it is he came in too late into the system. A full off season, I think he would have done a lot better. And I think he needed more time in that offense to be able to really be effective. And part of it is he's at an age where he's slowing down. So, I mean, his ability to separate just isn't where it was.
Yeah, I think we really just should have probably gone back to the whole coming into a Chiefs offense midseason and how difficult it is. I think you just saw a little bit of it. I mean, it's really, really hard to come into an Andy Reid offense, and the terminology and everything just being different. I think he gave it his best go, and given a full off season, I think DeAndre Hopkins could have done some things in this offense. But
people in the comment section letting me know that Joe Tryon looked it up. So Joe Tryon signed a 1 year, $4.75 million deal. Those are the kind of deals you're wanting for defensive line at this point. So that's kind of where you want to go on that road. And then, Tart re-signing with the Chargers. That's just terrible news. Why couldn't you guys just hide that from me for a little bit longer so I could have hope? It's like telling me the Easter Bunny's not real. It's just rude.
I will never tell you that, Nick.
I don't know. People in the comment section will, man.
All right. Do I need to let you go now?
What time is it? Yeah.
8:41, 8:42, 8:43.
I'm going to play a game called Leave. And let's see. Mitchell, I'm sorry. Here, I'll lean back just for you. Just for you, Mitchell. He wanted to know what the shirt said.
There you go. 5 out of 4 people struggle with math. It's a classic. The classics never die, Nick.
You know what, Matt? You make points I can't dispute. So, for all of you that enjoyed this, it was a pleasure. And for the guy who didn't, hope you have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate you as always, my friend.
Bye now.
I'll stick around for a little bit longer if you just want my question answers only. So you won't get the expert advice from Nick. And but I was gonna go next over to Steamin' Demon with the super chat. Matt, have you tried Blackberry Dr. Pepper? You got the astute eye. Yes, it's free agent week, so I am partaking of the Dr. Pepper, even though I will have, I'm sure, several people watching this who I shouldn't know that I was drinking Dr. Pepper. No, I have not tried the Blackberry. I should, because I don't necessarily dislike blackberry flavor. I don't like blackberries just because it's a texture thing to me. I've seen it. I should try it. I mean, the cherry Dr. Pepper is not bad. It's still not as good as regular Dr. Pepper to me, but here's the thing. Yeah, I haven't seen it in any like individual bottles. I only see it keeps in the blackberry in like huge packs, and I don't want a 24 pack or anything like that of blackberry. I don't know if I'm going to try it. I just want one. So maybe Steven, maybe we need to team up and get some and then divvy it up. Although I just need a bottle, so if you want the rest of it, if I find some, I should grab some for you. But thank you for the $5 for tuna. That will go a long way at Sam's Club. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Let's see where we were and go back to, if I can remember what time everything was, and find our next question. Because we were asking about the Big 12 tournament and Mike Pennell and let's see. Sorry, everybody. Where? Oh, we're getting close because we were just talking about the Darius Smith on a 1-year deal, and I'd be tempted. I mean, he's 33 years old, so I mean, it wouldn't be my first idea, but I'd be tempted on that. And Daniel, safe to say Uche isn't coming back. I'm assuming so. I know that they were really excited about that experiment, and maybe an full off season, maybe the experiment would be worth it. I don't know how Uche feels about coming back. Might not be the great. It's not a great fit for him. I mean, obviously he is a 3-4 type player, and the Chiefs thought that, hey, maybe that's just a player that Spags could use as a chess piece in an interesting way, and they just wanted to kind of try it out. I think the kind of, at least, experiment didn't work the way they wanted to. So maybe that's enough to just kill the just put a kibosh on the whole thing. I don't know, but I'm assuming he's not coming back, but I guess stranger things have happened. Michael, how about Von Miller? I mean, to me, it's the same kind of conversation as with what the Darius Smith. I mean, I think Von's still got a little bit of juice left, but is that the piece that you're really missing and that you need? I think if you're the Chiefs, you probably need. You're looking for youth and speed, and that's not Von Miller at this point. Now, you just need production. Maybe that's the case, but availability has also been an issue for Von at this point in his career. So, I mean, I don't know. Once again, it would have to be the right price, the right experiment. I mean, it couldn't be. It's not $12.6 million for Joey Bosa. I mean, that's not. I'm not giving that to Von Miller. Maybe he's not looking for that, but Casey Cheese 12. I know your question is for Nick. So, and I try never to answer questions as Nick or for Nick, but I my sense, Casey Chiefs, is that Nick's a tape guy. So, I mean, I think the 40 time is incidental to me. I think that, my impression of what Nick looks for in running backs from talking to him and watching the guys that he likes and talking about, running backs with him over the years. I think, he is probably fairly close to the Chiefs in this sense, and maybe like a, John Dorsey type, and that it's about the contact balance. It's about the, ability to stay upright, make guys miss in open space. Maybe not breaking tackles as much as just, being able to escape tackles, avoid tackles, run away from tackles. So, the 40 times should reflect what a player can do. I mean, if you've got a guy that runs a 4.6, probably isn't doing the things on film that Nick likes to see. Receiving is great. I mean, that's a bonus for sure, but Nick's an explosive guy, so he definitely wants you to have some speed and ability and everything like that. But tape trumps all. So everything is probably a little bit, production is probably nice in Nick's book, but I think it's more about just it's about the tape and about how the back looks, what they can do in space. Because, hey, there's good running backs to play behind bad offensive lines, and sometimes you can still tell what they've got. So, Daniel, the Easter Bunny is real. Bite your tongue, and don't ever tell Nick that he's not. KSU, we talked about bringing back Juju earlier. I think the Chiefs might be interested at the right price, but I think it would have to be a vet minimum, and and like I alluded to earlier, I mean, he doesn't need to be here during OTA. So if Juju wanted to come back, I could see him waiting until July, waiting until training camp, waiting to see how maybe the rest of the wide receiver room fills out. He might just want to sit back and wait and see what's the best place for him. If and I'm assuming he wants to continue playing. I mean, I know it's been hard for him, the injuries and the egg issue. I'm looking at Charlie talking about making the egg crisis worse, and I said eggs instead of whatever I was trying. Obviously, free agent week has officially fried me. I've officially apparently broken down, so I can't even keep my thoughts straight. But I'm assuming that Juju wants to be back, but obviously the knees and the injuries have been an issue for him and a challenge. So if he wants to come back, I could certainly see it. Just not wanting to be there for all of the off-season workouts, maybe coming back late. And if in Kansas City is a place where he doesn't have to worry about knowing the system as much because he's learned it and been a part of it, so I don't think that would be a big deal. I mean, Daniel, here's the thing. I think it's going to be a challenge. Saying about the Joey Bosa deal affect the inevitable Charles Omenihu 1-year prove-it deal in KC. I think that's going to be the challenge because I think that's probably what the Chiefs would like to do because, coming back from the injury, I mean, I've got a lot of confidence that Charles Omenihu is going to be a really productive player in 2025. I mean, I think you could certainly compare it to comparable to what you saw from Charles Omenihu in 2023. 2024, I mean, he would tell you, I mean, he was not all the way back. So you can't be that quick back off of ACL. So I think it's going to be stronger in 2025. But NFL teams they're definitely, they're more, they want to see it happen first before they're going to pay you. So I certainly get the sense that Omenihu wants a little bit more security than just the 1-year prove-it deal. I think he's going to have to go to the 1-year prove-it deal. If there's a team willing to give him multiple years and big money, and at least even a second year, Charles Omenihu's probably taking that. So that I think would be the challenge with getting Omenihu back. I think he wants to see what's out there in the market. If there's not a big money deal out there, and if it's a 1-year prove-it deal, I think very strong likelihood that he comes back to Kansas City. That'd be the place to go to because he knows the system and fits in well, obviously. And given a full healthy season, he would get a lot of opportunities. So, Daniel, what do you think happens with Sky Moore this offseason? And, I was talking about wide receiver earlier, and I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not even putting Sky Moore in the conversation. I mean, he's still there, and Chiefs may, continue to give him a chance. I think, that's a guy that if there's a team that calls and is interested and you can get a draft pick, I think you're probably trying to flip him for a draft pick. You're not going to get much, a 7th is probably all you could get. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. But hey, if you're the Chiefs and you could, get a 7th for Sky, the Chiefs, we've seen them parlay 2 7ths into a better 7th or get it into a 6th. Hey, a 7th round pick, it can be useful. I mean, there's a player that you want to get that you're not going to be able to get as a free agent. That's what 7th round picks are for. They can be little sweeteners and other deals. I just don't see Sky Moore ever. I just don't see him ever turning it around in Kansas City. I think he needs a fresh start. So I would be trying to find that fresh start for him and get something back. Like I said, I mean, I don't think you're going to get a lot of return for him, but if you can get something and give him a fresh start and get you at least a little bit of compensation back, I think that'd be great for the Chiefs and for Sky Moore. Also, is there a position the Chiefs would have drafted this year with the original 6 picks, but would now consider? Wouldn't have drafted, but would consider drafting with 8. I don't know, Daniel. I don't know if it really changed that much. I mean, you're the Chiefs. I think you're looking at. You're looking at a defensive end, defensive tackle, possibly a linebacker, corner, offensive line, most certainly probably a tackle. There's 5 right there, wide receiver 6. Those would be your priorities. If with 7 and 8 picks, if you take 8 players, you may hit a couple of those positions twice. I mean, I certainly think there's a possibility that as deep as this draft is on defense, that maybe you do that, especially like Nick said about talking about corner, and if you do make a move and you want to get some more resources for Dave Merritt, that maybe now's the time that you move on from 1 or 2 of the corners you have. And I'm not even necessarily talking about even Trent McDuffie, but if Josh Williams is somebody that you can move for a pick, maybe you do that because Josh has been kind of up and down, and I think now obviously there's 3 corners for sure in front of him, and if you drafted a corner, you need a spot for that player. So I could see that. I don't think it, like I said, I don't think it changes. I don't think there's a position that it puts on the table. I just think it's probably more likely that the Chiefs maybe double dip at a couple of spots and everything. You can hear me typing on my very loud keyboard because while I believe the KSU, I'm sure you're right on the Kareem thing. Yep. That was a 4.6 that he ran. You're right. I mean, I'm just not throwing it out there. It's super bad. I mean, and Kareem is the one guy where I probably shouldn't have been so flip about the speed and everything, because Kareem is the very definition of contact balance. I mean, the guy just never went down. I mean, that's why the Chiefs drafted him. And I think Kareem was faster. I think Kareem had a little bit of Mahomes. I think Kareem was faster on the field back in the day than he was on the track. So. Once again, maybe there was somebody chasing Kareem during the 40, maybe he would have run a 4.4. I don't know. He was pretty fast when he was younger. So, the Nombre, thoughts on the Chiefs trading out of 31 and acquiring more picks? Hey, if the guy that you don't want isn't there, then that's the ideal. It has just been increasingly harder to trade out of those late round picks. I mean, the Chiefs, they wanted to do it a couple of times, in 2020 draft, they wanted to do it. In 2023, they were interested in doing it, and there just weren't opportunities to move out of those spots. So, sometimes it just doesn't work out. If there's not a team that wants to move up into the first round and get the pick, it doesn't work out. So they're not all, Chris Jones situations where you're able to move out of the first round. You're the Chiefs, you're able to move out, get some more draft picks, and still get a guy that you want. You got to have a team that's interested in moving in, and sometimes there's just not been teams that are interested in moving in. So it's changed a lot. I mean, especially because teams look at that 5th year a little bit differently now, and that 5th year option. And for quarterbacks, it's not quite as valuable as it used to be, for a lot of different reasons. But teams just don't seem to be as interested in it as they once were. So they're not willing to give up, for that. It used to be that at least there was a quarterback involved, that maybe you could get a team to come up and get those last couple of picks in the first round. But teams just don't seem to be as interested. So Chiefs had a couple of times where they tried to trade out of a late round pick and just couldn't get it done. Daniel, McCole done, feels kind of redundant with Xavier and Nico now. And yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if McCole was back, and certainly as just kind of insurance and depth, I could see him coming back. But you're right. I mean, if the Chiefs are going to go younger, and McCole is still actually pretty young, but we just haven't seen the production from him. And and Nico, I think is going to emerge as a really reliable special teams player. So I think you'd stick with Nico over McCole there. Are there some other spots where McCole can help you out? Maybe. And at this point in the career, McCole is a practice squad wide receiver as backup. I had no problems with that. So if you're able to keep McCole in that kind of a situation as a backup, I think that's fine. And as for Gardner Minshew as quarterback 2, I think I'd be okay with that. I don't see any issues with Gardner. I mean, he seems like he's been a pretty good team guy over the years. Seems like a pretty smart quarterback. Seems like like Nick talked about, I think there's a diversity in his experience where he'd fit in well and be able to maybe bring a different voice to that quarterback room. So I'd be okay with that. Dez, any AFC team moves that scare you? Broncos are much better team than they were a couple of days ago. I mean, that one, I think, is the one that jumps out immediately to me as one that's improved themselves, the AFC the most. They've made some really good moves. Obviously, Dre Greenlaw is going to be a big pickup for them. And they got Huffenegger as well. I mean, that's 2 guys right there that dramatically improve that defense. So really impressed with what the Broncos have done. Yeah, I mean, that's the one that jumps out to me. I'm looking at I know the Chargers, they kept Khalil Mack, they picked up Najee Harris. I mean, they're basically J.K. Dobbins replacement. So it might be a bit of a lateral move. I mean, Najee, if he stays healthy, that could be but you played 50% of the snaps last year. So Dante Jackson, that's a good addition. But I mean, I think Christian Fulton's better. So I feel like that's maybe even a loss a little bit. No, there's no doubt. I mean, I think that the Broncos are the team that's, with a couple of moves that they've made, I think is certainly the best improvement that I've seen. And they're just getting better and better. So eventually the Broncos, I think, are going to be a scary team. Sean, can contracts outpacing salary cap? Would you try to reform rules to help? I mean, the big part of it is it's really just, the negotiation between the NFLPA and the ownership as far as how much money that they're going to allot to salaries and the percentage that goes to the players. I mean, that's a set finite amount. Now, I say finite, I mean, it's a finite percentage, but the pool of resources continues to go up. So, I mean, it's not really a matter of contracts outpacing the cap as much as it is that the cap just keeps going up. So contracts keep going up. And teams, continue to find new and better ways to finagle around the cap. Now, what's going to be interesting to me is that when the void year phenomenon that, the Eagles are so masterful at, when that bill starts to come due and how that affects teams, that might change things. I mean, nothing's going to change until the next CBA, which I think is going to run through 2031, 2032. So nothing as far as the pie that the players get is going to change, other than obviously the NFL keeps finding money under sofa cushions and TV deals that keep increasing it. So I don't think that's going to change a whole lot, but I am interested in seeing just what happens when, like I talked about, the void year era and some of those contracts start to hit and come due. How does that kind of play out? And we'll see in Cleveland a little bit about the Deshaun Watson deal. That's how they handle it and what kind of cap nightmare they go through. I think will affect a little bit of the vision going forward and how teams do things. But the Eagles, I think, are going to be a real test example, but we might not know for another 5 to 8 years how their void year experiment really kind of plays out as far as their ability to build a team around whether it's Jalen Hurts or a new quarterback down the road. Stoney, do you see the Chiefs re-signing Kareem Hunt? I think there's a distinct possibility. I mean, obviously Kareem's got up there in age now, and he's got some miles on him. So I think we saw a little bit of the wear and tear, finally hitting him last year. Could have been a little bit of just the off season and not having the full off season workout. So could have been a couple of things, but I think distinct chance that, the Chiefs bring him back. I'm not closing the door on the Kareem Hunt era quite yet. Winston, do you see another decent to bigger free agency signing? It's a good question. I mean, I think that the one thing that the Chiefs obviously need the most is they need depth at pass rusher. I don't know if there's a really big, I mean, you might call it decent. I don't know about bigger. Are the Chiefs going to be adding a double-digit player as far as double-digit salary, 10 plus million per season over 3 or 4 years? I don't know. I don't know if it's out there. I do think that obviously they need pass rushing depth, so that would be the place to look and to go. But we'll see what happens. Daniel, also, do you anticipate the Chiefs to show interest in Cooper Kupp? Nick and I talked about it a little bit ago. I wouldn't go down that road. Nick wouldn't go down that road. I could see it being a possibility the Chiefs would consider, but again, Chiefs want to get younger and faster, and Cooper Kupp's great, but he'd be coming in here as the fourth option, and I don't know that that's what he wants. I don't know how well it would work out. So, and you said you noticed earlier that Jalen Moore is in the I said the guaranteed starter this year. Personally thought he would for that guaranteed money. Who will rival him? I expect the Chiefs to add another veteran, and it could be of the type of a DJ Humphries, a Donovan Smith, somebody like that. So, somebody not terribly expensive, but, on a 3 to 4 million max deal of some sort. I think the Chiefs will probably draft a tackle. So, and we'll see what happens, with some of the tackles that the Chiefs have on the roster. The Chiefs liked Ethan Driscoll enough to keep him on the roster all last year. And if he has a impressive offseason program and works himself into the conversation, It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think that there will be 2 or 3 players, pushing for that starting job. Jalen Moore, I mean, if you look at it over a 2-year period, I mean, it's not guaranteed starter money. Now, if you look at it as just a 1-year deal, 21 million, which it could very well be but that to me is if it doesn't pan out is what makes it a 1-year, $21 million deal. More than likely, it's basically a 2-year deal for 15 million. And if he plays a second season with the Chiefs, then that would probably mean that he was successful as a starter in 2025 and comes back in 2026. I mean, there's a couple of different ways this could play out. So I mean, I think he is the likely starter. I don't think it's guaranteed. I think there will be competition. It's just, like I said, it's just how many and how good is the competition for that job going to be. And your final question, I think I'll wrap up with this one, Daniel. Chiefs should go all in to bring the fullback back to KC properly and sign Kyle Juszczyk. I'm on board with that. I mean, I think Kyle's going to be 34. He's up there, but I think he can still play. He can do anything that Anthony Sherman did in this offense. I think the Chiefs actually missed that. I think he'd fit great. Obviously, hey, Taylor wears his wife's jackets, so that'd be just another fit. So I think it'd be a great addition, Daniel. I think it would. Your last question, I'll circle back. One last question, Daniel. Do the Chiefs draft Taylor's replacement this year? I mean, I think that Jawan Taylor's replacement is probably one of maybe 4 options. I think Wanya Morris is in that conversation. Ethan Driscoll, I'm going to put into that conversation, depending on what kind of an off-season program he goes through and how he comes back. I think a draft pick from this year could be in that conversation, an option for somebody else. I mean, I hate to be as wide open as that, but I think there's a possibility you draft Jawan Taylor's replacement, but I think that, I think you want to find out if Wanya can be a decent right tackle. I think, if that's the more likely role for an Ethan Driscoll, but if he can compete on the left side too, throw him into the conversation, but that could be his possibility. And then, I mean, just the field. I mean, there's always the possibility it's somebody else. I mean, this is likely Jawan Taylor's last year. So going to have to look for a left tackle and a right tackle for the immediate future and the short-term, long-term future. So everybody, thanks for putting up with all my nonsense tonight. Appreciate you. I know my brain's probably a little fried from free agency the last couple of days, so I know a couple of times I wasn't making any sense and I was talking about eggs and eating my tuna salad. But you are all the best. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We had one of our bigger audiences that we've had in a while, so I appreciate everybody for stopping in and firing away with your questions. It's been a lot of fun tonight, so thank you very much. As always, everybody, have a great week. If there's any more, breaking news, big signings, anything of that nature, we'll try and pop up in your stream. If you're interested, it's a quick listen. Go check out the interview that Nick and I did today with Graham Mertz. That was a lot of fun. Local kid. He's worked out with Mahomes in the past, so the Chiefs are familiar with him. So. I'm not saying that, hey, there's definitely going to be some interest, but it'd be really fun if a player like that ended up in Kansas City. He's coming off an ACL injury, been working hard, and it sounds like he's going to be throwing. He's telling us today he's going to be throwing at his pro day at Florida later this month. 5.5 months from ACL surgery. That's impressive. That shows that he's attacked his rehab. So it was a lot of fun. Check it out. Sunday back in your stream. 41 is the mic, and then next Tuesday back again. And unless we see you in the meantime with an emergency Q&A or a live discussion with anything that the Chiefs do this week as the new year begins and free agency continues firing away. So everybody have a great week. Thank you very much as always. Appreciate you. And we'll see you next time.